All right, what's up, guys? I'm Jared Poirier, and welcome to my movie review show where I talk about movies. We are going to try this crap again. Unfortunately, Tom won't be able to join us. We're gonna have to just do this without Tom. Sorry to everybody that was expecting a bit of a debate, but looks like you're just gonna have to deal with me talking at you guys again. I apologize for that, but here we go with this live stream. Just going to send out the link to a few people that wanted to watch, make sure that they can, and then we're going to get going here. Thank you guys for putting up with this. I'm really sorry that this thing got screwed up at first and we got off to a bad start, but I'm happy to have you guys back, and we're just going to get right into it, guys. So let's talk about Isle of Dogs. So give you guys a little bit of background. I haven't seen all of Wes Anderson's movies. Of the ones that I have seen, I would say that Grand Budapest Hotel is probably my favorite. I did actually enjoy that movie. I did find that it was a bit pretentious, and I kind of thought the way that they treated the Indian boy character in that movie wasn't very favorable and wasn't really that great. But that's okay. You know, that's not really like that big a deal. I guess it wasn't like overtly racist or anything. Just like a little strange. But I liked that movie overall, Grand Budapest Hotel. I thought that the characters were really good. I thought that the movie was actually funny, and the whole thing had kind of like a sense of like whimsy, you know. So yeah, I really did enjoy that quite a bit. And so going into this movie, I was pretty excited to see what it was going to be about. I knew that it was going to be like a stop action animated movie, which is something that I really liked. And I've seen a lot of stop motion movies that I really enjoyed. One of my favorites, I actually went over on Amir's channel. We went over The Nightmare Before Christmas there. Kubo and the Two Strings, another classic. So, you know, quite a few good stop motion movies out there. Nightmare Before Christmas would probably be one of my all-time favorites. But I really like the art involved with that type of thing. And I was hoping that Isle of Dogs was going to deliver here. I am also a huge dog lover. I've got 2 dogs, big fan of dogs. And with this movie, I just thought that maybe it was going to play the heartstrings a little bit and, you know, hopefully get some of the feels. And I was sorely disappointed by this movie. I did not enjoy Isle of Dogs at all. I thought that Isle of Dogs was total trash. Actually, to be honest, I couldn't identify with any characters in this movie. I thought that the whole way that it was presented in this manner was just it was just presented so ironically that you really couldn't attach to any of the characters or to any of the things that were going on. Tom, you've got the link already, so if you can hop on, then do try. But you know, I don't think it's going to work out. You can try one more time if you want. But here, I'm going to send you that link one more time. Actually, if anyone wants to hop on here and get their face on cam, let me know. I will shoot you the link, and you can join up. I'm totally fine with getting a few more people on here and getting a bit of a debate going. So the 3 adjectives that I would use to describe this film: pretentious, ironic, and self-indulgent. Maybe I could add another one in there, which would be boring. When I first watched this movie, I thought that it was a complete waste of talent. You have really talented actors in this movie, like Bryan Cranston, like Norton, like Scarlett Johansson. And I just felt like they were frankly wasted in this movie. You know, like there could have been so much more done with this caliber of actor, and they just all deliver their lines in pretty much the same way. They all have this like deadpan delivery. Yeah, I just didn't really get it. I didn't understand why they were all delivering their lines that way. It just like made it very hard to, you know, identify with any of their characters or even enjoy the movie. So I thought that that was pretty weird, and I was kind of wondering why. Maybe it's because these actors haven't done a lot of like voiceover work before. I mean, mostly they're just like talented, famous actors, not like you know, voice actor professionals that always do this type of work. Maybe that's why, or maybe Wes Anderson just said, deliver your lines super deadpan. But I don't know. I don't really know what happened there. Pretty weird. Pretty weird. What else? What else? Some. Let's talk about more of the bad stuff. Just the environment in this movie. I mean, it was impressive that things were so complex and everything is built up in a certain way. You know, but I don't know. It's mostly taking place at the dump. A lot of the scenes are a little bit colorful, but a lot of them are just this like gray dump with rats running around, and you know, it's just garbage. Like you're at the dump. Like I just don't understand why when people come and say like, "Oh, this was one of the most beautiful, vibrant animated movies of the year." Like I just don't get it. I'm like, they're just at the dump, hanging out at the dump, playing around. So yeah, that kind of confuses me. Why people say that this movie is so beautiful. I didn't really fully understand that. And a lot of stuff is kind of dimly lit, and yeah, just didn't love some of the choices with this movie. Obviously, if I was going to say something nice about this movie, I could talk about the stop motion animation, and I can talk about the fact that this took a lot of work. And there are some sequences. There's like the sushi sequence was a big highlight for me. There's also a scene where they like are in this lab and they're putting all these different things through you know, different devices and stuff like that, and all that stuff is pretty cool. Those like things within the science lab, I did quite enjoy that. But I think as far as like stuff that I liked in the movie, that's really where it ends. The rest of it, yeah, I thought that it was pretty pretentious, and I thought that it was like pretty boring as well. I felt myself getting pretty bored throughout this movie. Like I said, I just couldn't, because everything is so ironic and everything is so deadpan and you're just in these gray environments. I just couldn't give a crap. I just got bored. And that's really disappointing when you go to watch a movie and you just come away from it completely bored. And that's how I felt watching this movie. And I think that one of the reasons why we watch movies is to be entertained at the end of the day, right? I mean, a movie should have a message. It should have something that makes you feel an emotional investment. But at the same time, movies should be entertaining, you know? And yeah, that's another thing that I didn't bring up. The fight scenes. I mean, I think they just got a bit lazy there. For all the work that they put in this movie, they have these fight scenes where the characters just get together and it's like a cloud of smoke with yeah, like these dog legs sticking out of it. That is a good point by C.A. Cougar there. Very good point. Very good point. So yeah, I just kind of wondered like what is going on with this movie? Why did they make these decisions? Why did Wes Anderson do this? And I can't help but think that he just made this movie for himself. Like these were just some cool celebrities that he kind of wanted to hang out with. See, did I feel anything about the relationship between the boy and the dog? I really didn't. I didn't care about Bryan Cranston as a dog, as a dirty, mangy old dog. It didn't make me feel anything, and it's unfortunate. Like I want to feel a nice story about a kid and his dog. Like that should, honestly, for me, like I was someone who was raised with a dog. I've had dogs my entire life. Absolutely a dog lover. And when it comes to this movie, it didn't tug the heartstrings. I didn't feel anything towards those characters, Danny, unfortunately. No, no, I did not, and that's sad. Another thing that I thought about this movie is that it's super inaccessible. I'm not really sure who this movie's for. Apparently, there are a lot of people who like it. Pretty much everybody who I talk to seems to at least like this movie in some capacity. But I was wondering, like, what is the target audience for this movie? Because it's not little kids. So I guess it must just be people who like Wes Anderson movies, but that can't be like that huge a group of people, right? And I looked up the box office for this movie. It's not like it made an incredible amount of money. It's kind of hard to tell how much money this movie actually did make because the studio didn't release the budget. Um, so that could be kind of a bad sign as well. When the studio doesn't release the budget, that could just mean that they don't want people to know that the movie wasn't a financial success. That's what it kind of makes me think. I mean, this movie had something like a international box office of, I want to say, like 60 or 70 million or something like that, for probably a movie that costs maybe, 30, 40 million to make and double that to market. So I don't think this movie made very much money. I don't think that this movie is really designed to reach a wide audience. I don't think that this movie is something that will appeal to kids, especially. I think if you like showed this movie to a kid, they'd just be completely bored. There are parts in this movie, like I said in my review, that take place almost completely in the dark. And during those scenes, I felt like I was going to fall asleep. Probably this would have been more fun if Tom would have been able to work it out and come on here and and debate me. But whatever, you guys can just listen to me ramble on about this movie here. If you guys thought that this movie like was about something, and then this movie did have like some serious themes, because kind of when I was thinking about it, I was like, okay, maybe this is like about racial injustice or like about genocide or something, but it didn't come across like that, and nothing is handled like seriously enough that it made me think that this movie is trying to say anything. So I don't know. Yeah, just not a film that I think is enjoyable. Not for me, anyways. What else do I want to talk about in this movie? Well, I already talked a bit about this film being boring and how I think that is a valid criticism. One other thing, people who say that I don't understand cinema, I think that's fine if you think that I don't understand cinema. I think it's weird if you watch my movie reviews and think that I don't understand cinema. That might be a bit strange. Like, if you think I'm just totally wrong about everything, I don't know why you would watch the videos. But that's fine. I mean, I'm happy to have the subs. I'm happy to have the followers, even if they think I'm an idiot. But do I understand cinema? Well, I'm not 100% like the expert on all cinema, but I do know a little bit about movies. I have seen some movies, and I've seen a couple, and I've reviewed a couple. I've read some books about film criticism. I watch a lot of film criticism on YouTube. I read movie reviews. I try to follow all the new movies. I make these videos, which is something that has taught me a lot about cinema. And I'm gonna have to block this guy. Boom. Yeah, anyways. Oh, and Lexmark, I can make a mod. That's so cool. What? That is crazy. Look at that. He's a moderator for the channel. Boom. Done. Yeah. So this movie sucks, and I am not 100% the expert on films, but I know a little bit, and I know enough to know that this film isn't fun, and that I didn't enjoy it. What else? Well, there is one kind of big thing that I did want to talk about in here, and then I'm going to take a few questions from you guys, let you guys take the floor a bit. But one other thing that I did want to talk about here, other than this movie being boring, other than the performances being very deadpan, other than this movie being presented in a very like ironic and pretentious way that makes you not care, other than this movie being very self-indulgent and Wes Anderson just making whatever type of movie that he wanted, I think that one of the big problems with this movie, yes, I have seen Into the Spider-Verse, but one of the biggest problems in this movie is the fact that it treats the Japanese culture in such a strange way. Like, it really, like, I think I don't think that this was the intention of this movie. I don't think that this movie really did this on purpose. I don't think that this is like Wes Anderson's propaganda piece against like the Japanese people. But basically, there's kind of like a device in this movie where Wes Anderson wants you to feel more for the dog characters. And he does this by basically making all of the human characters characters that you can't really like feel for. They don't really feel like real characters. They don't really feel like real people almost. You don't like them. And I think that like the whole Japanese society is kind of treated this way in this movie as well. Like you're not meant to really understand any of this stuff. Basically, it's like putting the Japanese culture there and saying like, look at all this weird Japanese stuff. And that's supposed to make you like care more about the dogs and stuff like that. I don't know if I'm just like completely, you know, I don't know if I'm completely off base here. But I thought that that was a bit of a problematic element of this movie. And I did kind of start to wonder, I mean, I was like, is this really the fault of the director? And in all of that, hey, what's up, Green Slayer? I don't think I've met you before, but welcome. Yeah, but like I was kind of wondering, like, is this really just my fault? Is this because I don't have like an affinity for the Japanese culture? Maybe I'm missing something here. Maybe there's something that I don't understand. But then I started thinking about it for a while, and I was like, damn, there's a lot of like, you know, Isle of Dogs is what we're talking about. We are talking about Isle of Dogs. There's a bunch of Japanese-inspired media that I really like. Stuff like Princess Mononoke. Well, it's just straight out of Japan, actually. Princess Mononoke and Ghost in the Shell and stuff like that. You know, Studio Ghibli animes and all that type of business. I'm into quite a few of those. And then other stuff that's just like straight up inspired by, well, there's so much in the West that's inspired by Japanese culture, like everything from friggin' like all of the martial arts films to, you know, all of the Matrix movies and all of that. So yeah, I think that there's tons of movies that take place in Japan that, you know, are deeply rooted in Japanese culture, and they're still movies that I can enjoy, movies that I can identify with, and really movies that make me feel. And this here Isle of Dogs movie did not make me feel anything. So I guess we'll kind of cut it off there. I've been talking about this movie for a while. I already reviewed it on my channel. And really this whole stream was just so that Tom could come on and we could argue a bit about how I don't understand cinema, but we couldn't get him on. So just talk to you guys about Isle of Dogs for a bit. But yeah, if you guys liked the movie, like, let me know why. Let me know. Yeah, let me know why. Why did you like this movie? Did you find that you cared about these characters? Did you care about the story? Like, because I didn't. I just definitely didn't. And yeah, like everything that I've said about this movie already, I'll summarize it again. I thought that this movie was super pretentious. I didn't like the ironic presentation. I thought that this movie was self-indulgent. Most of the movie takes place at the dump. The actors deliver super deadpan performances, and all in all, it just comes together into a pretty boring movie that I didn't care about. All right. That's okay. That the movie was. That's okay. Green Slayer doesn't want me to talk about Isle of Dogs like that, but that's okay. You know, it's fine. Everybody has. You know, it's okay, dude. It's okay, Lexmark. It's okay. It's all good. It's all good. Yeah, like you know, you guys just don't have to argue so much about movies. You know, it just some people like certain movies and some people don't, and there's nothing wrong with that. You know, like it's totally fine. It's not that big a deal that people have a different opinion on movies. And look, if you guys really liked Isle of Dogs, if you thought that it was amazing, oh, Tom's trying again.
There we go.
Fine. Oh, we're having another go. Tom, can you hear me?
I can hear you and I can see you.
Oh my God, Tom is here.
It's only taken me 1 fucking hour because I've got my whiskey.
Unbelievable.
5 devices I've gone through to get this to work. Bloody Google. 4 browsers. I've done everything on Chrome, Firefox, Safari, you name it.
All right. Well, let me get another beer. Give me a second. I was wrapping up. Honestly, I was wrapping up, but let's do it.
And I've still got my whiskey, so just in the nick of time. Okay, let's see. How are we all doing tonight, guys? I can't see the chat. Can I turn chat on?
All right. So far everyone's on your side, buddy. Everyone liked this movie. I'm the only one. I'm the only one that hated it.
Yeah, it's quite the unpopular opinion you've got there.
Yeah, it really is. Okay, so I've been talking for like a fucking hour here about why I don't like this movie. So why do you like this movie?
Right. So this movie really means a lot to me. So it all sort of kicked off. So in March, I saw the trailer for it, and I'm a big fan of Wes Anderson. If you said name your first, favorite 3 directors, probably go down for the list of Christopher Nolan. Especially with the Dark Knight trilogy and Inception, and his work with Hans Zimmer. Edgar Wright. I think he's made I think 4 or 5 films. And the total box office was 200 million throughout all. I think 5 of those films. And 100 million of that, I think, directly all came from Baby Driver itself. So Shaun of the Dead, Hot Fuzz, The World's End, and Scott Pilgrim vs. the World were all completely ruined by, I think, the trailers. Wes Anderson, on the other hand, obviously he's a very successful director, comes straight out of Texas, which is unusual. He's a very distinct and artistic sort of director. If you went into like a film school or university where they have a lecture and you said, who's your favorite director? Probably half the university students would say probably Wes Anderson or something along those lines. He's one of the most unique directors, and his use of sound, color, and music is just, I think, beyond belief. Sometimes it has gone a bit tacky. So with the Grand Budapest Hotel, I mean, you really pick on his use of color and lighting cues, and it's really impressive. But there's the odd scene where the color is just so harsh in your eyes, it's quite discombobulating. But however, his previous stop motion animation film was 2008 or 2009, I can't remember. Fantastic Mr. Fox, which I did see in the cinemas about 8-9 years old, which did blew my mind, because the only sort of other stop motion films I think that were done in that sort of sense was Aardman with Wallace and Gromit. I'm not sure how big that is over there in America, but in here,
I know about Wallace and Gromit.
Wallace and Gromit, yeah. So my dad grew up now. I've grown up. I love that. But I mean, he just took that to an unprecedented level. The detail, everything he's done, the set design, the characters. But like with every Wes Anderson film, he's always got his favorite cast back in. Whether it's Bill Murray. He's got all of that. It's just so many of these big names. Scarlett Johansson he's thrown in there. I think she's a new one. But the other thing that really struck me with the Isle of Dogs is the vast improvement of stop motion technology. And no, I'm not saying you're saying it's a bad film because of I know that for a fact that you do like the stop motion animation. It's probably unprecedented at the level it's been set. Within the last 10 years of the other film coming out, it's just such an improvement. Like, he went above and beyond, what was required of Wes Anderson to really put into perspective of like what he wanted to, film. Like, he didn't have to do it, but he just did it because, it's like he's Wes Anderson, or just because he wanted to. Like, in particular, the one scene I really, really, really got to me was when I was watching the cinema was the sushi scene. And this is the scene where
that's one that I highlighted earlier. Yeah,
it's Professor Watanabe is poisoned with wasabi poisoning, and the guy's making the sushi. There was no need for that level of detail from the bird's eye view of down to where his hands was doing that. And they said that the hardest bit to do was getting the plastic gloves on where he puts the wasabi poison on the sushi. There was no need for that, absolutely none whatsoever. Yet he did it anyway. However, I have to say, this film is not a perfect film. I don't think it is his best work, but I do think it is one of the best films that came out of 2018. So, I mean, have you talked through the plot of the film yet, or?
A little bit. I think most people kind of know it. If they don't, then give them a quick rundown on the plot. That'd be excellent. Okay, I'm going to assume most of you have seen it, but just a quick reminder. I saw it, I think, about 2 weeks ago. So the idea is you've got Mayor Kobayashi and a scientist, Professor Watanabe. They're both running for the president of I can't remember what the name of the Japanese city is, but it's set in Japan, which is a big key aspect of the film. So there's a outbreak of snout fever, which is a disease which affects dogs only, and they're fearing it's going to spread to the human gene pool. So Mayor Watanabe Mayor Kobayashi decides to exile all the dogs to this trash island, which becomes the Isle of Dogs, which is also a very clever use of the name, because if you
you think about it, it sounds very similar to I Love Dogs, and Wes Anderson certainly is a dog fan. So he exiles all the dogs, and then his I think nephew, his dog Spots, is exiled, and he steals a plane to go find him, and he meets a pack of 5 dogs, all come from different backgrounds, and through them he goes to find them, and eventually he finds Spots. But there's the odd twist and turn which you don't expect. If you haven't seen it, I'm not going to ruin it, but it is a mesmerizing film. Like, the story itself can be a bit confusing with the odd flashback here and there, but I think the main criticism you've pointed out, and almost I think every other critic I've seen who've made that point, is the use of Japanese. Now, I think not many people, I spoke to my friends about this film, is the use of Japanese. So the idea is you're still seeing it from the dog's perspective. The dogs are speaking English, and at the start it says all barks have been translated into English, which is a bit of a joke, but then again, it is sort of the point. And the other thing is they captured the Japanese culture so well, I was amazed. Like at the start, they had the taiko drumming scene, which that was another level of detail that I didn't go into, but really the soundtrack as well developed massively, and it's so traditional Japanese. And like, considering this was made by a Western sort of American and a bit of British as well, that those 3 sort of companies combined managed to capture Japanese culture so well was unprecedented. For the Japanese itself, the biggest issue was, why are the bits in Japanese not all translated? And some bits are. That was the biggest criticism. Now, the reason
I think the only time that the Japanese is translated is when it's translated through like an English interpreter. I'm almost certain.
You're right. The only time it is translated is, for example, at the start when Professor Watanabe gives his speech. But then again, I mean, I've seen quite a few French foreign films, a few Spanish films and whatnot. But at the end of the day, you don't have to be fluent in that language to sort of understand the gist of it. But what Wes Anderson's point here is, you're seeing it from the dog's perspective. It's not designed at a Japanese audience, despite being so heavily centered on Japanese. No, it's designed at an English-speaking audience. You're supposed to be seeing it from the dog's perspective. You're following along with the storyline, and you throw Atari into the mix, and you can't understand him, but you sort of see it from the dog's perspective, because the dogs can't understand him either. But you can sort of see, you can imagine, the dogs can't see how Atari would feel about his lost dog that well. But as you, the viewer, you could easily see how a 12-year-old boy would, he wants his dog back. You can clearly see that, and it doesn't matter what language he speaks. He could be speaking Greek for all I care. You can still relate. And in some scenes later, there's still more Japanese. I mean, you don't need to be understanding it, because the whole point is you're seeing it from the dog's perspective.
Yeah.
The other issue was this, in terms of story. It had that girl who was pro dog, the American girl. I can't remember her name. Do you remember it?
I can't remember her name either. Girl with freckles and an afro.
Yeah. The freckles and the afro, the blonde afro. She's the foreign exchange student, and also helps get Yoko Ono, the character who plays Professor Watanabe's assistant, back on her feet, and to get the cure for the disease out there.
She's the white savior of the movie, the white girl who shows up and sets all those crazy.
Sort of put it like that. I think the only.
I know you wouldn't put it like that.
A couple of reasons why I think she's needed. I mean, at the end of the day, like you just feel like she doesn't add that much to the story. However, when you watch the film, you realise there's a bit more to it. Like, Professor Watanabe gets murdered. Atari doesn't know that. They've also, they've got to, stop the poison getting eradicated, from spreading across all the island, killing all the dogs. Now, without the use of her, that would all be in Japanese. And seeing that, that hacker scene where the guy hacks in and gets rid of all that, and you've got the pro dog students, plotting against Mayor Kobayashi. You wouldn't understand that. That's the only time you really understand. That's when you have to understand what's being said. And she stands up. It's not a case of that she's white. It's just because they needed a bit of English. So hence the foreign exchange student being able to speak English and Japanese. So she gives a speech to the students saying, "Look, this is what we need to do. Let's get down to it." And it works. And they protest. They go onto the stage and they protect the dogs and whatnot. And the hacker manages to save the poison from being spread and diverses it to all the guys on the island who were working there, which was that's the only reason I think, and at the end of the day, she doesn't have a backstory either. All you know is she's a foreign exchange student, and you can clearly tell that means a lot to her as she sacrifices it in order to save Atari. But also, I think you could argue that it is a bit of needed sex appeal for Atari, because she's roughly about the same age, and she does admit that she is in love with him. So I think it's also a tiny bit of a love story then. But
yeah, that also made me feel absolutely nothing. Their little love story.
But I think that's the point. It's not really a case of the love story. It's more between the dogs and the guy, the Atari himself.
All right, so let's get into that though. Like, you've talked a little bit about the animation, you've talked about the story, the characters, but like, did this movie affect you on like an emotional level? Because for me, it made me feel absolutely nothing.
I think in terms of the movie, it was supposed to, like, every film gives it off a different, impression. Like Amélie, the French film, I love that. It's supposed to give off that feeling of love. You've got Inception, a feeling of intense fear. You've got Dunkirk, you sat on the edge of your seat. Whereas I feel like Isle of Dogs was a much more sort of heavy hitter. Gets you right in the feels, and you can really sort of, you can sort of relate to it in a sense, and you can clearly tell that there's a big sense of depression going out there. You've got the dogs being exiled, that would make you sad. You think if you've got a dog, that would be your dog. And also, I think the use of color, it's really drab. It's, excuse my French, it's shit. It's, something you don't want to look at. It's unpleasant. You're staring at
very, very, very detailed shit, meticulously rendered, meticulously slaved over shit. But
they went above and beyond what they needed to do in terms of every single frame of the shot. Like, for example, even the fur, it moving and everything. They didn't need to do that.
But it still is garbage, right? So
it's the point. Yeah, it's supposed to be like, it's set on a trash island, garbage island, rubbish island. It's supposed to, give that feel. And when you think of rubbish and stuff, and like, you think of maybe poverty, and that makes you feel bad, and you think you're not having money. It's kind of poor, dingy, sad, depressing. And he used the colours. So there's one scene where you see Spots. He gets dropped onto the island. He's in his cage, and he's surrounded by. I'm not sure how many of you have seen WALL-E. But the scene where WALL-E compacts the stuff and stacks it in blocks. It's sort of blocks of trash that have been compacted and stacked on top of each other, and it's all grey and depressing. And when you first meet Atari, he has that face off with the robot dog, which is really emphasised when Bryan is it Bryan Cranston? Yeah, Bryan Cranston, his character says, "I can't smell him." Which is a really astounding scene, because you see the dog in the background, you think that's a dog, but oh wait, is it the robot dog? Which it is. And that whole fight scene takes place on a really grey, drab beach with grey skies, guys in drab uniforms, and the only colour that stands out are the dogs themselves. And even Atari's in a shiny grey colour, but it's ever so slightly. So the typical thing with, if you're watching a Wes Anderson film, if in the background, like if it's a hotel or whatever, like, there's sort of one color of orange, but like different shades everywhere you go. That scene was one shade of grey, like just many different shades of grey.
Yeah. So you actually did really like the relationship between like Atari and his dog. Like, you really cared about it. The isolation of the dogs on the island. You really cared about them. Like, I'm honestly just asking, because for me it had no effect.
In a human sense, like. I think the only way you can process this if you put yourself in that shoes of a 12-year-old boy. A dog means a lot to you, especially if you're quite lonely. So you think about it, his parents were killed. He probably doesn't have that many friends. He's moved to another part of Japan. He's getting homeschooled, it says. So he's clearly alone. So the only thing he's got is essentially his dog, which is then stripped away from him. So I think anybody in their right mind would hijack a plane and crash it on a trash island. And he gets injured in the process. I think you've really got to relate to that on a personal scale. But what really hit me, like, I kind of had a feeling this could happen, but it's sort of things you expect it to happen, but you're still shocked that it does. Was when Spots says, "Look, I can't be your protector anymore." I'm usually quite good at guessing plot twists and whatnot, but the scene that did get me is when Bryan Cranston's character Chief was washed in that theme park whilst waiting for the pack of dogs going through that recycle centre. When he washed and he came out as a white dog with a pink nose, blue eyes, are clearly the same species, family as Spots. I didn't see that coming. And as soon as I saw that, I started thinking maybe he's going to be... As soon as I saw that, I started thinking that maybe Spots is not going to be it, and then Chief is going to take over as his dog, which he did. But at the end of the day, right at the end, you think that Spots is dead in that final battle on the stage where Mayor Kobayashi steps down. But you later find out he's not. But it's sort of like Scarlett Johansson character, the dog she plays, is also, I think, the dog of the exchange student, the Afro girl, which is quite coincidental. So sort of a love story between those two dogs and the couple themselves, which is also quite cute, sort of like a happy ending. But the thing is, with Wes Anderson, like with particularly this film, like even though it's a happy ending, it doesn't feel like one. You see what I mean?
Yeah, I get it.
Very drab. But I feel like every frame was a really rough around the edges feel. And you know, you can imagine being on that island. There's going to be like, you know, when you go like you get a load of bottles and whatnot, and you're recycling it, and then you get like that juice or whatever that comes out of the bottles because you haven't quite finished it, and then you get sticky bin juice, and that's awful. Like you can imagine that's what the whole island's going to be like. That feeling, you know, it's going to stink. It's going to be awful, hot, humid, cold, freezing, and it's full of infected dogs. And you can just really understand that it's not good.
And I wish I would have felt like I would have felt bad for the dogs. I wish that I would have like felt bad for Atari that his dog got taken to that island. I guess that I should have, but there's just something about the presentation of it, and I think that it was just like the way that everything was so deadpan, and this movie had such a strong sense of irony, like a sense that that it wasn't sincere, like that it didn't really like care about anything that was going on, and it had this like ironic distance from it. Like it reminded me of like people who I knew in high school who would play like really bad pop music that they don't like, and they would like groove on it in an ironic way, and I kind of felt like that was like what he was doing here.
Yeah, I can understand that, because at the end of the day we are human, but we're seeing this from a dog perspective. But like the humans we relate to aren't speaking our language, and that's sort of the point. So when they released the film in Japan, it didn't quite work. It had some negative mixture of views, because obviously the Japanese people could understand the Japanese, and that's not the point. The point is they're not supposed to be able to understand it. So I may be wrong in assuming. I think it was dubbed in German, but I might be making that up. That might be just, you know, a complete made up fantasy I've made. But I feel like it was probably dubbed in German. But like. I can see your point. Like you as the viewer feel distance because you can't relate to the dogs because they're dogs, but you can't relate to people because they're not speaking your language. So you're sort of in the background. But at the end of the day, like the dogs are seeing it from the dog's perspective, the humans are seeing it from the human's perspective. But you as a viewer are luckily and fortunate enough to see both sides, both sides, and you can put it together and like really understand like what is going on, and also it's quite a non-linear sort of timeline. There's a few flashbacks here and there, and it does mess up the storyline, and it can get quite confusing. But
that stuff I didn't mind so much, and I actually liked the world building in this. Like I liked that the world felt bigger than what you were presented, right? There was this whole like historical kind of epic that was just in the background, but it did make it feel like there was more of a world going on here, that there's like kind of geopolitics to this whole thing in some ways. And that I did sort of enjoy. But
I think the other thing that I really noticed whilst watching the film is classic Wes Anderson, his painstaking attention to detail. So, for example, the linear kind of traveling side of it. So when Spots is deported, he goes from left to right. When Atari goes to the island, he goes from left to right. And when they go back, it's right to left. And the signal, that sends the wasabi poison out is left to right. And then it's cancelled as right to left. It's literally like, it really makes you feel. And when you see the map of it coming over, you see it from left to right. You can really sort of put yourself. But the other thing is, Wes Anderson, he doesn't use angles, such as that, or that or that. It's literally either straight, or to the side like that, and
which you could view as like, and a lot of symmetry and stuff like that, which you could you could view as limiting, or you could view it like in any movie. If sometimes you establish limitations and it leads to being the movie's strength. I mean, but in this case,
where he puts the camera feels weird, because when you sort of see the people and the close-up pans and the background shots, like with every Wes Anderson film, you don't see it as if you're sort of there first person as a viewer. You're sort of seeing it as there as an audience, which really gives the storytelling aspect. At the start, the guy says, in English, "Isle of Dogs," and it is that sort of storytelling narrative aspect of you being there. It's just what Wes Anderson went for, and it's what he wanted. But I think the other thing is the whole idea of it being depressing, and you think dogs, you think, oh, it's a kids' film. Like Fantastic Mr. Fox was definitely a kids' film. I loved that film as a kid.
Yeah, I'm glad that you brought that up, because that's another thing that I wanted to talk about here. Like, what really is, because when I watched this movie, I was like, we're so used to this type of film being made to appeal to kids, and that's kind of what I thought this would be. And I've seen other kind of cartoony movies that are made to appeal to kids that I also really enjoyed. Zootopia is one of them. So who do you think this movie is for? Like, is it just for those Wes Anderson film school kids that like Wes Anderson movies because they're artsy and in film school, or do you think that this movie actually has a wide appeal? I mean, everybody in the chat is saying I fucking like this movie, and I'm over here saying that I don't like this movie. So, you know, maybe it does have more of a wide appeal than I think, but
no, yeah, you're completely right. With most Wes Anderson films arrived between the age gap of 12 and whatnot. Like his previous film, stop motion film was Fantastic Mr. Fox, which was PGU, which I don't know what that is in America. But this film, I believe, was PG-13, which I reckon I think is a 12 in the UK. It's not designed at kids.
Yeah.
Like your parents would see the trailer, think dogs, boy film. But the thing is, the use of color, the sort of depressing scenes, sort of the violent scenes, actually. But even still, I blotted out with cotton wool, which is a really, quite significant trait. The same thing he used within the last stop motion movie. But I think it's not just for those Wes Anderson fans that are like, yeah, I really like films, yeah, particularly Wes Anderson. Yeah, I'm a massive film gear. No, I don't think it's designed for those sort of people. It's literally just like a film for a generic person, sort of like a fanfare for the common man. Of just films. It is. Like, if I could just, if you
do you really think that though? Because I think that like Infinity War is kind of like that, or maybe not even. I mean, that you kind of have to be into comic books.
Like
maybe
something. Infinity War,
yeah.
There's more to it. Like I've seen people have watched it and they're like, I don't really get it. I mean, you've got to be a bit of a Marvel fan, maybe a bit of a comic geek to sort of get a bit of sci-fi fan. But the thing is,
maybe something more like Mission Impossible or something like that, right? Just like
someone went up to you, if someone went up to you and said, right, how would you categorize Isle of Dogs? Somebody would be like, okay, I've never seen a film. I don't know what films are. I don't know what cinema is. What film would you show them? You'd show a film that's got a bit of aspects of every genre, a bit of sci-fi, horror, just a film, like a story, like a book. When you pick it up, every book is different. But at the end of the day, if you could just have, the kind of possessive determinant book, I feel like this sort of comes under that category. The other only film I can think of is, The Secret Life of Walter Mitty. That relates to everybody on a personal scale. There's a love story in it. There's tragedy. There's, a depressing scene. There's action. There's fear. There's a bit of horror. It's got a bit of everything. Tiny, a chef has just taken each bit of, genre, shoved it into the mix and made a film for you to see as like a person who's never seen a film before. And I feel like Isle of Dogs definitely comes under that category. So no, I don't believe it is just for like, the classic film, knobheads who just think, you haven't lived until you've seen Amelie or, I'd say it was a really underrated film. It's Pulp Fiction. Like, no, it is a film designed for everyone. And at the end of the day, people will interpret the film differently. Like you definitely interpreted it, differently, seen to everybody in the chat and myself included. I mean, it is not the best film, but I mean, it is still a very, very good film. You can ignore the effort that was put in. The effort put in doesn't make something good. I
don't think. I guess like sometimes it even works against a movie. Sometimes like a movie is so just going in the wrong direction that the more effort they put, the worse. One film that comes to mind is like Batman versus Superman. I wouldn't put this film in that category. I would say that like the effort that they put in still works towards the movie's the movie's favor. Where this movie fails for me is just the feels, like the fact that I just didn't feel anything in this movie, and that I did think that it was boring. So let's talk about that, because I did want to talk about that. That was one thing that you had mentioned before, and I wanted to kind of air that a little bit here. Let's get a little bit of discussion going. I thought this film was boring. I think that that's a very valid criticism. I think that movies should be entertaining. So is it? Is this movie is boring, right? Is that a piece of valid criticism?
Take a film, you have every right to view this film as boring. Like I have every right to assume any other film is boring that you might love. Like at the end of the day, cinema is subjective to the individual, and everyone takes a different piece away from it. Like for me, this really resonated with me because it seems more of an adult stop motion film, and there hasn't been many animated or stop motion films for that matter that are designed at adults. Like the last one I can think of, which is animated, is Sausage Party, and I watched that. That's you watch that and you think, bloody hell, this is strongly mature, R-rated movie, 15, 18, whatever. I watched that thinking, what is the point? They're just going for sex jokes. There's that weird sex in the end. Like it's food. What rubbish story? It's funny, but through the use of like immature jokes. At the end of the day, like, why does that make it adult if they're behaving in a way that's ridiculous? Whereas this film, like, it tackles things that are a lot more difficult that adults face. You got the sort of side of depression, overcoming it, at the end of the tunnel there is like that sort of feel to it, which is a lot of adults experience, particularly at my age, between the ages of 18 to 25. You know, you maybe at college, at uni, whatever. You're struggling as a student, whatever. There will be light at the end of the tunnel. And I feel like that's what this film could potentially give off. That's why it's not an adult film. Now, you may be wondering, like, is this aimed at kids? You know, there's no subtitles. Wes Anderson did put subtitles in because kids don't read subtitles, but no, it's deliberately aimed at an older audience for them to resonate with, and you know, connect with this film on a wider level than it is just, you know, oh, I'm just watching a film. It needs to be a much more personal, you know, feeling to that. That's why what makes a film great is if the audience each has a personal relationship to the film. Like if I said to you, what's your favorite film? You could say, oh, it's, you know, Warhorse, because I saw it with my dad. It was the last time we ever saw it. Like, you know, there's you know, a bit more personality to it. You know, it resonates with the audience.
Oh yeah, for sure. There's sometimes you just like a film for very personal reasons. I'm the guy who goes around and defends the fucking Phantom Menace, and everyone knows that film's terrible. But I saw that, like, that film came out when I was like 9, and
exactly,
it was the perfect film for me. And now
it's
I
like
can
the films you watch
rewatch
as
it and
kids,
see the problem.
you think are great, and then you rewatch them when you're an older, and they're absolutely shit. And you're like,
Well, that's why I thought that this was weird, because I was like, in a way, this should be built for me. Like, this is a film that I should like. I'm a huge lover of dogs, and I'm a huge lover of like stop motion movies, and I've even liked a bunch of Wes Anderson movies, and then I just didn't like it. But I don't know, man. It just, like, the way that it was built is just not exactly something that was for me. But yeah, I just kind of wanted to point that out, that I do think that that a film being entertaining is usually something that you want in films. And to give you an example of that, like a movie that does tackle kind of like big important themes and still remembers to be entertaining, and that's Black Klansman, a movie that came out this year. So
oh yeah, I've been meaning to see that. It does look quite good.
Yeah, definitely. Well,
based on a true story, I believe, as well.
It is, yeah, and just like that, it can tackle a serious issue, present something that is like, you know, it's about the Ku Klux Klan and you know, them attempting an assassination, but the movie's still funny as hell. And, you know, you're enjoying it the entire time. There's like a love story in it and everything. So
yeah, so again, I haven't seen that film, but from what I've heard, sorry, I'm a bit ill. It is quite a morbid sense of, you know, a kind of sense of that hitting of reality. You know, you've got the KKK, which, you know, a group based entirely off hate, which I just don't understand. I can't comprehend, you know, what they believe. And when you hear it, it's just absolutely astounding. And you know, the concept of a black man going undercover, you know, posing as a member, you know, going, you know, through it using other people as well is just incredible.
I think someone might be bashing on your door there.
Yeah, hang on.
Yeah, no worries. We're having an Isle of Dogs break here. No worries. Yeah, I'm glad we got Tom on here, guys, because there was quite a few more things that we need to say about this movie, and I'm glad that Romy hopped on the chat here. We are going to talk a little bit more about Isle of Dogs here as soon as Tom gets back. Oh, here he is, the man of the hour, the Tom of the hour. So let's talk about a couple more things about this movie. So I've kind of mentioned this a little bit before. The way that this movie treats Japanese culture, it does kind of treat them as like the outsiders, and like you said, it does sort of use it as a device to make you relate more to the dogs, to basically have this like weirdo Japanese culture that seems so foreign to you. Is that like problematic in any way? Like, could that be considered like xenophobic or like, dare I say, racist? Yeah.
It's a very, very good point, because the Japanese didn't receive the film well. They're a bit confused by it. But I feel like for a Western group, I think it pays sort of, you know, homage to the culture itself. Like at the start, you've got that, you know, that man bedding the incest and everything. I don't know that much about Japanese culture. I know a little bit about Asian culture, speaking a bit Chinese and whatnot. Tiny Chinese, but I mean, at the end of the day, I feel like it was really well captured. And you've got the taiko drumming at the start. Everything, as a drummer, I know everything was in time. You know, the soundtrack was perfect. They used Japanese instruments. They used, you know, that sort of, you know, concept of Japanese culture, and they endorsed it really well. You know, the Japanese speakers were all Japanese people themselves. I think Atari, the character who played, the guy who played him, was an actual 13-year-oldish Japanese kid making his big break into cinema. But I feel like it wasn't a case of being, you know, racist or xenophobic or anything to be offensive to the Japanese. It is literally just a case of that could have been anything. It could have been Indian, Chinese, Greek, Australian, you know, German. It doesn't matter. The fact it's Japanese. It just so happens to be Japanese.
Yeah.
But the other thing is this whole idea of the Japanese are very efficient in everything they do. Like trains, if 43 seconds late, there's a train that left 43 seconds early, and they apologise for that. In 43 seconds, trains 43 minutes later, and they don't say out, right?
Yeah.
So it's that sort of efficiency, and the sort of, I feel like they really decided like that whole Japanese culture would definitely fit perfectly within this film, and I feel like the film pays respects to it, and I feel like more people would. I left that film thinking I kind of want to learn a bit more about Japanese culture, and it's sort of, I'm not going to say tourist boost, but a bit more sort of interest into that sort of culture, because at the end of the day, especially in America and like Britain and whatnot, we don't. Well, Britain's very multicultural, but at the end of the day, like no one really gives a shit. So when you watch that film, you might be, oh, I'm a bit interested now, actually. And then you Google it, and next thing you know, somebody's, you might have bought a ticket to Japan for a holiday. Like, I think it really sort of puts it on the map, and it does sort of pay homage to the film itself, and the Japanese culture and everything. Every part of it, I think is quintessentially one of the best portrayals of Japanese culture in a film, a Western film, that is, because there's been a few, Western films that have portrayed Japanese culture. They've either portrayed it wrong or just been downright racist.
Yeah, or just ones that have like borrowed elements. But I tend to like those movies, like stuff like The Matrix or Godzilla or different stuff like that. Like those are movies that I'm related to more. Yeah.
It's a Japanese film. The recent one, 2014, I did like. But I feel like there should have been a bit more of Japanese style to it. I mean, they did start off in Japan, which was good. The two creatures left and Godzilla was in the water and whatever.
Yeah.
I feel like it should have been more focused on Japan though, like rather than bring it to America. I think that's just the American side of Hollywood making it American rather than Japanese. Because
I'm glad that you did feel that way, that this was a movie that got you more interested in Japanese culture, because I just did not view it that way at all.
And that resonate with you.
Yeah, and that was that the whole kind of maybe xenophobia aspect of this was not something that struck me the moment that I was watching the film. It was kind of later as I was thinking about the movie, and I was like, why didn't this movie click with me? Why, what seemed off about this movie? And that was one thing that I went to later and kind of was examining. I was like, oh, well, how did they, portray Japanese culture here? Why did they do it this way? So
I think Jerome Latimer's quoted me saying, "You can't make a point of it's just boring. That's just not."
We talked about that already. The other thing that we didn't talk about.
He's every right to say it's boring.
Yeah, that's fine.
There's different appeals for everybody. But.
Yeah, we've gotten kind of past that, and the fact that one of the reason why I'm glad that you're in the chat there too. Turns out you are pretty good at tech stuff. You just couldn't figure out this live stream right away, but I appreciate that you did, man. And you stuck with it, eh? You didn't give up. You're like, no, we're gonna fucking do this. And I appreciate that, man. This has been
I noticed watching the film for no reason, did I?
But there's the other thing that we're definitely gonna need to talk about here is a quote from you, probably the thing that you said that actually got you on here, which is that I don't understand cinema. So let's talk about that a bit. Do you still think I don't understand cinema?
I feel like that was just me being a bit pissed off that you sort of slagged off a film that really resonated with a lot of people. I mean, at the end of the day, I think one of the most popular films in particular. And I was just like, that's just, I think the real reason I think I said that was because you just said it was boring. You didn't say why it was boring. You just said, oh, it's just shit. Someone could say, the Matrix was shit. And it's why?
Why?
That's not good. You've got to go into much more detail. And if you're just saying something is because it is,
I agree with that. And that was just my kind of quick thoughts. I did actually, I don't know if you've watched it yet, but I did actually do a full review on it. I'll send you the link to that later if you didn't get a chance to check it out yet. But I did I'll send it to you. I did go more into depth into this movie, and you've got the idea here now though. When I say that it's boring, I think you understand what I mean. And I'm not one of those people who goes around saying oh, I know the most about cinema. Fuck, dude, I've been doing this film criticism stuff for just over a year, right?
I mean, to be fair, I did have a little film blog myself. I reviewed quite a few films. Tried to apply for the Rotten Tomatoes criticism thing, and it was just chuck a blog, so I just get you up on that. But I have been reviewing films to myself personally. I haven't really told my mates about it, but it's just as sort of a hobby, really, just my personal self.
Yeah. Well, you're pretty smart about this stuff, and you definitely know what you're talking about. So
it is sort of one of my fallback careers. It is definitely if everything goes nods plan, the film reviewing or going into the film industry is definitely something I've been part of. Like, I used to make films all the time as a kid. You know, I've watched films that people thought they've loved, and I've been like, no, that generally is a rubbish film. Like, you're just saying it's good. Like Frozen, for example. Like, oh, it's a Christmas film. It's not. It's set in the summer. Just because it snowed doesn't make it Christmas. Yeah. So fuck. Like, you know, people like, a lot of people are quite ignorant of cinema itself. They just think, oh, I'm going to go see a film. Film was good. Happy. Great. Bam. Yeah. Just done. But at the end of the day, like,
a lot of people would be happy with whatever they've seen.
People just, the majority of people just want to watch a film. Whereas, you know, there's a few individuals like me, you, and a few other critics and everything that want to go see a film. You know, they want to get something out of it. Whereas some people go to the cinema thinking, oh, I'll get a lovely big bag of popcorn, a load of sweets, and that cork, and I go and watch a film. Yeah. Like that, yeah. You can't blame them. Like, those people who really make the box office go. And then without them, the film industry would be nothing. That's why films like The Meg and, you know, Skyscraper, and, you know, every Dwayne
Transformers movie,
every Dwayne The Rock Johnson movie is shit. There's no question. Like, Change My Mind is he can act, but there's every story he's ever been in. Like, I haven't even watched Skyscraper, but I can just tell it's wank. Like you don't have to be an idiot. You're a genius to like work that out. But at the end of the day, people will be like, yeah, it was a good film. Yeah, not too bad. Like, I watched The Meg back in July. That was a shocking film. Yeah. Even the director said, yeah, it's not to be taken literally. Like, you know, if you're the director and say, yeah, don't take the film literally, you know it's going to be shit. Like, at the end of the day,
did you like it though?
Did I fuck? No, I love Megalodons. I used to love them as a kid. I was a massive paleontologist. Yeah. But no, it was a rubbish story. And poor Jason Statham, he never gets a good movie, ever. Like, The Mechanic was probably the best he's ever done. And then the Resurgent one, that was awful. But at the end of the day, people are going to go watch it anyway. You could watch the trailer of The Mechanic Resurgence, and people would. I remember watching it thinking, this is rubbish, this is awful. And it makes me just like, I'm going to go watch it. And I'm just like, why? It's going to be awful. And they're like, no, it's going to be a good film. At the end of the day, they're not fussed about cinema, but they'll go watch it anyway. And those are the people that really contribute to the box office. Whereas people like me, I refused to go see that. I was just like, that's going to be an awful film. And I wasted 2.5 hours and 20 quid, thanks Odeon, with 15 quid sweets and a 5 quid ticket.
Yeah, honestly, by then, yeah. Sneak a couple beers in, it makes it a little bit more worth it, I guess. But no, I know what you're saying, man. There is enough like trash being released and enough movies that are just like the same generic garbage recycled over and over again. And I gotta say that, like, as much as this film didn't land with me and I like didn't have a good experience with it, like, I do recognize that it is something different. And I'm glad that it's people are trying something different. It's
a unique film that's never been attempted before. Like, the whole sort of tile. But then again, I mean, with everything that's unique, just because it's unique doesn't make it good. Yeah. But I mean, you've got to commend, you know, the effort that went in with the stop motion, the fact that Wes Anderson said, right, I'm going to write a story, and it's going to be so out there, it's going to be so different from what everybody's ever seen, that, you know, you've got to commend him on that, and it's a valiant effort, whether it worked or not. I mean, at the end of the day, it has got sort of 9 out of 10, sort of a B+ movie. But at the end of the day, I mean, to do something like that and pull it off is just phenomenal. Like, with Fantastic Mr. Fox, like, he had the whole sort of story of, you know, it's almost word for word from the book, actually, of Roald Dahl. You can't go wrong with Roald Dahl. The Grand Budapest Hotel is another fantastic, you know, example. You know,
I like that movie a lot, actually.
It's based on, I love that film.
Yeah, that worked for me.
But I think this is the sort of film where he's had no help. It's literally all on himself, and if he fucks up, it's on him.
Yeah.
But he's did a monumentous job, and it was a huge effort between 3 countries, and it really paid off.
Well,
I mean, it's not perfect, but it's still very, very good.
Even though I didn't like this movie, I can definitely say that I'm glad that I watched it. I'm glad that I had an opinion on it. I'm glad that people cared. Like, this animated some people, like, got some people excited. Like, people wanted to talk about this movie, and like, and that's good. Like, that's why I fucking love movies. That's why I'm excited about cinema, is the way that like it can engage people. It's not a passive experience. Everyone, like, and that's what I love about like doing these videos and like talking to people about movies. Like, I don't see movies as a passive thing. People are like, oh, I don't like movies, I prefer video games, because with a movie you just sit there and watch it. And I'm like, no, that's not true. You watch it, but like, you analyze it, you talk about it, you discuss it. And you know, this can really give a workout for the mind. Yeah, and it can be something that's definitely more engaging than just sitting in front of a thing. So yeah, we're gonna wrap this one up.
Wrap it up now.
We're gonna wrap it up right now. We'll get it done. Okay. Yeah, man. But I appreciate you coming on here, Tom. And yeah, dude, and that was excellent. I really appreciate that you didn't give up.
Thank you for watching.
Yeah, buddy. Thanks for coming on. Yeah, no worries, man. And thanks for everyone for watching. I'll see you soon, buddy.
Thank you, guys. Right, take care.
Bye. All right, everybody. So that is going to be it for this live stream. Again, thank you for sticking through the technical difficulties. We did end up getting a nice video out here. We talked about everything that I wanted to talk about, and I really appreciate Tom coming on here. And at the end of the day, this all went really well, and I love that we got this debate going here. And I appreciate you guys watching. So I'm going to get out of here. I'm going to let you guys get on with your lives. Some videos that I have coming out soon. As I talked about earlier in the stream, we're going to be doing a video that's going to be hot takes. So all of your unpopular opinions from the internet that I'm going to discuss, all of your hot takes on movies. And then another video that's coming up, we are going to do most and least anticipated films of 2019. We're going to talk about Marvel movies. We're going to talk about John Wick. We're going to talk about Pikachu. We're going to talk about these pointless Disney remakes. And I hope that you guys will enjoy all of that content, because at the end of the day, I do this shit for you guys, as fun as it is for me. I hope I keep making content that keep you guys entertained. So yeah, hopefully these streams will keep going well, and hopefully this will keep being fun, and we'll all keep learning about films together. So as always, thank you guys so much for watching. I love you guys, and I will see you guys next time.